Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Mileena's gonna perform again tonight. Now, my parents were very great people and they were amazing, and that's why I became as great as I was. I had a lot of opportunity despite being poor growing up. I had a lot of opportunity. So, um, I had kind of like you know, there's a couple things here, right? Like I was more spoiled than the rest of the siblings in the family. So, at that point, you kind of think to yourself, well, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? To some extent, it was kind of a bad thing. And to some extent, it was a very, very positive thing. Now, when you're spoiled, you don't appreciate things as much, or you take things for granted, or things are handed to you, and earning things are not really as easy. When I was younger, I didn't really earn things as much because I was like, well, it's just going to be handed to me. Whereas my other siblings knew that if they had to get something, they had to earn it. And so I kind of bloomed later on in life in terms of career and everything. I had been struggling with it a bit because it was like, well, like my parents would just pay for like a nice shirt for me or whatever. And I didn't have much, but I had always been given things compared to my siblings. I mean, I wasn't given much. I mean, I wasn't rich or anything at all, and I wasn't spoiled at all, but I was given more than my siblings. So for them, they knew early on that if they had to get something, they had to earn it. Whereas for me, it was more like, well, I could just, ask for something. Maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. But it's easier than other things, right? But I mean, for the most part, all in all, I obviously grew up to be, well, Marco, I'm Marco. I obviously grew up to be great. Now, Mileena's great too, of course, but Marco's it, right? So I grew up to be great, and so, even still, I'm behind my siblings. Car salesmen compared to what they're doing, I'm behind. I'm not doing as well. They're doing much, much better than I am. So for me, it's like, um, that's kind of why I decided to pursue this YouTube thing. I wanted to pursue being famous, and I wanted to pursue having an opportunity to have, the things that come with fame. Now, for me, fame is not something that's important to me. Fame is just kind of like a, a side thing for that. I don't want fame. For me, I'm okay with having fame, but I'm not. Cause fame is not something I've wanted really. It's being financially secure and having things, having a comfortable life in terms of what you can afford and different things, that kind of thing. And for me, I know my channel is going to be big. I know I'm going to be huge, and for me, being famous is going to happen. I'm almost guaranteeing it. Like, look at this, look pretty good, right? But for me, it's something that is a side thing. I wanted to earn money, and I wanted to be respected by my family. I wanted to have, you know, I had always been someone that, recently I'm okay. It's not like I'm suffering or anything, and I don't have, I don't have anything like any issues really. But for me, it's more like, you know, my family had always been doing well, compared to me. So for me, car salesman, it's not that bad, but I don't get a lot of money. So, when you have that kind of career and you just kind of like, well, to my family, it's kind of a laughable career. And I'm not sure if you guys, my fans, know yourself. Maybe you're in the same boat. Maybe you decided to do YouTube because your family kind of doesn't think your career is a valid career or anything like that. And so, I kind of wanted to do this so that I could have a chance to pursue something larger than life, being famous, and not that fame is what I wanted, but being famous and having the money associated with fame is exciting, and it really puts things into perspective when you've always had that career that, your family kind of shunned, not shunned, but they kind of didn't really, think was great. And so they had always kind of, put you down, not in a bad way, but just kind of like, oh, that's not really a career, or or they belittle your talents or whatever because you've got a career that isn't as good as theirs. I have a cousin that has a really good job, and so for me it's kind of like, well, I need to do something where I can be competitive with my family. Not that I'm trying to be competitive with my family, but I mean, my parents would want me to do very well. My mom always wanted me to do very well, and so, I mean, to me, it was something that I really held dear. Like and I'm a hard worker. I work very, very hard, and for me, my career wasn't, car salesman. Well, what kind of career it is? I mean, it's not a bad career or anything, but I mean, compared to what my family does, I'm doing like to them, I'm doing nothing. So, I mean, not that car career is not a bad career at all. Like, it's a good career, but I mean, they had always kind of, and with my dad, my family had always kind of belittled my dad, making him feel like he couldn't do this or he couldn't do that or he wasn't allowed to do this. And I really felt bad for my dad because my dad had been, always very, very talented, just not recognized in terms of the money he received. So, if he had gotten the money that he was worth, he would have been rich by beyond measure, but he never was given that chance. So, I mean, for me, it was always something I was very upset with. I'm not sure if my fans can relate, but my fans might know, maybe their parents were kind of not given that opportunity or whatever, and you're just like, when your parents are not treated well or whatever, not necessarily badly or anything, but just not treated as well as they should be, and you're not treated as well as you should be, it really is, something where you're like, well, I mean, like I said, fame is not something I'm interested in really. I mean, I like fame. I'm not opposed to fame. I like it, and I think it's really cool, I mean, there are definitely drawbacks to it, but I mean, my family had always been very much like, oh, you have to really, what do they say? They kind of say stuff like, you have to, you shouldn't be doing this, or you shouldn't talk about this, or with my parents and me, they would do stuff like that with me. But they love me very much, but they would do stuff like that with me, and it was like, no, I want to do it this way. I want to do it this way. I'm really proud of myself. I've earned this. I really know I could. And then with my YouTube videos, like, I had some siblings that were like, delete them, and I'm like, no, why would I delete them? And so that's another reason. If I'm famous, I'll always remember that I had been told to delete them, and then I never did, and then I got famous, right? So, it was kind of like, well, if you have 2 university degrees and your career isn't reflective of that, then you have to do something where you just kind of like, you gotta have, do very, very well. I mean, I have 2 university degrees and my job doesn't show it. So I mean, it's a good job and people sometimes do very, very well. My agency doesn't pay that well for car salesmen, so it's not like I'm like living a lavish life. Some car salesmen do make good money, but my agency doesn't pay very much. So, it's kind of like, well, and some car salesmen do make a lot of money. Some of them really do. But, I mean, for me, it's just like, when your family's always been like, oh, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, and they didn't mean anything bad by it. I know they love me. I know they love me very much. But it was kind of like, well, no, I think I can do this, and I like this, and this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to pursue a career, and this is these YouTube videos. I want to keep them up. I want to keep them up, and I want to be famous for the money that I'll make. And so I'm not sure. And like I said, fans, if you've experienced this, maybe you're like, maybe you have somebody in your family that's like, you shouldn't have your videos up or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's what I want to do, and that's what I want to pursue. And I even had somebody in my family that said, you can't get paid on YouTube, and I'm like, no, I know you can. So for me, it's just something that I really, really kind of had been upset about. Like, you don't want to hear these things from people, and I mean, and they're your family, they care about you, so that's there, but you kind of would like more, more emphasis on, the real facts. I mean, and yes, I'm not getting paid on YouTube, and yes, I'm not, but you can. So when that person said that, I'm like, okay, you obviously realize people that are famous get paid, right? And it just didn't make any sense to me. And I was always like, my poor dad had been dealing with people always saying, don't do this, don't do that, and all this stuff. And I was really upset. I mean, for me, it really hurt me because I was like, well, he was never famous because he couldn't negotiate a deal or whatever. He never got paid. So, I mean, for me to be a star would just be really good for my family and just sort of like really good for my situation, and it'd be really good for me to say, I did it despite it all. And I'm sure, like you guys, you have dreams and you want to pursue them, and you're thinking, well, how come people say this? How come people say that? And you're just like, not that you're fed up, but you're just kind of like, well, that's not right. No one should say that to someone, and no one should do this. But I mean, it's just part of the process of being famous. Sometimes people say things, and this is how it is. People can't always be perfect. People can't always say the right thing. And even though you feel a certain way, it's not something that's always reflected by other people. So, it's not like I'm not suffering because of it, but fame would really be nice for me. I really feel that I earned it. And, I'm watching other channels. Like, I know, like, people that have channels, and for some reason my subscriber count is very low. Like, I don't know why. Like, I mean, like, it's 1,050, which isn't that bad, but I'm like, I'm shocked. Like, and I'm not trying to say it is what it is, but I'm like, I've seen channels, and I'm like, that person has 10,000, that person has this, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I have a very good channel, way better than theirs, and so it doesn't make sense to me. By now, especially, I've been at this for a while, so I mean, for me, it just seems like I don't know why it's so low, but anyway, I do like your comments. Please keep them coming. Flood me with compliments. I do like the last comment I got was so nice. The person's like, you are gorgeous, and thank you, of course, thank you. I really appreciate it. Mileena does look very, very good. Looks like this are quite rare. It's very rare to look like this. And if you're a man and you look like this, I mean, well, I'm dressed up as a man, I was a woman. I'm not really like looking like this, but when you look like this and you're originally a man, it's really kind of like, wow, like look at this look. I mean, this is so nice. The dress is very nice, kind of Christmassy, right? But if you guys out there notice that maybe you guys are treated a certain way and you're like, I don't deserve this treatment. And I mean, all in all, I have a very good. I'm very happy, and I've got lots of good things. And my parents did, live a longer time. Madonna's mom passed away when she was 5 or 6 years old. So my mom passed away when I was 26, and my dad was 84 when he passed. So I mean, it's not like it's and people, if I lost my child, that would be devastating. Very, very devastating. Obviously, losing parents is very devastating, obviously. But when you're younger and your parents really did all they could to make sure you had a happy life, like, my parents gave me so much. I'm so blessed. Um, and so, it's kind of nice, and I've been able to have very lucky situations. I've been very lucky. So, it's very nice. Um, and so, like, I mean, even just the look that I got very, very lucky. Like, who looks like this, really, right? Like, I don't know. I find that my look is very conventional. I don't know. I just think it's really, really good. So I'm pleased, and so I mean, it's not like I have. Yeah. So I mean, and the thing is, when you have things in place, I've always had support. My family pretty much did a good job of being a good family, overall. I mean, there were things I didn't like sometimes, but I mean, overall, they were very good. And, like I said, if you guys are out there thinking to yourself, like, I've had people tell me, you can't do this, you can't do that, or that's wrong, or this is wrong. And, it happens to everyone, obviously. But when you're told that and you're like, you know what, I don't have to believe this. I want to go this direction, or I want to do this. Or I'm very creative, and I'm very kind of like, I want to be in complete control of my own life. So, when you have people say these things, you're like, you don't know me, like, why are you saying these things? So, it's kind of like, well, when you achieve fame and success, then you can say, well, I did it despite what people were telling me, and what people were saying. So fans of mine, if you're out there and you're thinking to yourself, this sounds like a situation you've been dealing with, it's tough, you don't want to have to feel that way. No one should make you feel that way. So, and I'm sure you guys all out there feel like you have maybe one day where you're like, oh, I want to do this because it would mean a lot to me because I've had all this negative comments and negative things, and so it would mean a lot to me. My family and I, like, I have a very good family, very close family, very good family. But the thing is, my family's very, very different from me. So even though we were very close and we had a lot in common, oh, not a lot in common, but we were very close, and we're very supportive of each other. We are very different from each other. So my family and I are very different. So, I'm the kind of person that would do something like this, whereas my family, and I mean, there are people that are stars in my family, don't get me wrong, and that might do the same thing, and they might be very, very successful, more successful than me, but I know for me, like, my family was very kind of like hard on me with a lot of things, and very like, and I just didn't have much in common with a lot of them. So when we were younger, there was arguments. They sided with other family members, so I was always the lone wolf, and it was kind of like, well, what do I do? I don't know. And I mean, they had made arguments that made no sense and they were ridiculous, but I had no one siding with me, so I had to just accept it. So, that was wrong and that was really upsetting to me. And, even being told to delete my channel and being told that I'm not, like, famous, not something people get from YouTube, I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. So I'm very glad that I was able to say, I'm going to pursue this, I want to do this. And now they're getting better, of course, but it's just like, when you've been told those things, you're like, you know what? I really feel this is going to be a success one day. I really feel that I'm going to make it one day. And so if I do, I have me to thank. And of course my family too, but I mean, after all that, it's tough. You're just like, how is that right? Um, but I mean, the one thing that I know, I mean, the thing that's really good for me, and if you are someone on on YouTube, sorry, if you are someone on YouTube and you are famous, or you plan on being famous or whatever, the good thing is that if you do make it, your salary is incredible. I've always wanted to have a salary up there with my family. I'd always been behind, I'd always been struggling. And, for me, it'd be really nice to say I make the same or more than my family. It's always been something I really wanted. I had always been kind of like my dad. I've seen my dad and seeing how people would treat him a certain way because he didn't have money or whatever. And I mean, it's not like people having money. To me, I'm not judgmental. Having no money or having less money doesn't bother me, and I don't think it should be something that you would discredit someone or whatever. Like for me, I'm not judgmental, but when you're told by people that you are that your dad shouldn't do this or that because he's not rich. And my dad was super talented. So, I mean, it really hurt, growing up seeing that. And so for me, it was just kind of like, well, I mean, and nobody expected me to be famous. Nobody expected me to do anything really. I mean, I did do stuff. I'm a car salesman, but my car salesman job really pays low. So, I mean, for me, it was just kind of like, well, when nobody expects anything of you and you've got siblings that are very much about money, they're very nice, of course, but they're very much about money. So they kind of treat you differently because of it, and they make you feel like you're small sometimes, even though they don't do that intentionally. They're not doing that intentionally, but a lot of times they control everything because they have more money, and so they feel that you're not as important. And to me, I'm not like that. I don't judge. But for me, I'm like, well, how is that fair? Like, I have 2 degrees. I'm really trying to earn money, but it's hard. I don't know how to break into that world of like getting a top career. I've been trying for so long. So, it'd be really nice. I really would deserve it to get this career. I really work very hard. I have 2 degrees, That's not easy to do. And to never have that opportunity where you have that job, where you feel proud of your job and you feel like you've accomplished a lot and you feel like, when you're working at a place where it's not financially stable. I mean, it's financially stable, but it's not like it's a high paying job. And I mean, for me, car salesman is good, but I do really get paid low at my car salesman job. It's not a high paying car salesman job. So, I mean, if you're a car salesman, some people make a lot of money. I just haven't been given that opportunity. So I mean, when you are someone that I've earned things, I've earned degrees, I'm like smart, but I've never been considered qualified for certain things, and I'm like, well, like, I know I'm really talented, like, I know I'm really good at things, super efficient, super friendly, I could do a lot of things, and I know I'm capable of making a lot of money now even. I could have a career, a good career. I have 2 degrees, it's a lot of degrees, but for some reason, no one ever gave me that opportunity, no one ever gave me that chance, so if I made it on YouTube, I think I will. If I make it on YouTube, then I'll know, yes, I really did make my parents proud, and I really did, if I make more money than my family, I'll be so happy. I'll be like, oh, that's awesome. But I'd be so proud of myself, and I'd be so kind of like, I did it myself, and I really worked hard, and I had my parents to thank, and my parents never got to see this kind of money. So, it really is upsetting for me that I wish my mom was around and my dad was around so that I could spoil them, but I never got that chance. So, it's kind of like, um, you can't really, describe how good it feels to be famous if you have never been famous and if you've never been kind of like the type of person that had that opportunity. I had always been treated a certain way because people were very kind of um, uh, like my dad was treated a certain way. Not me really, but my dad was treated a certain way. He was kind of like everyone was kind of like you're poor. They would make comments, and I mean my dad had suffered because of that, and he should have earned all that money. Like he should have been rich, like a construction worker building major buildings, and then being a musician that's like so talented and good looking, he should have earned a lot of money. That was something that I always regretted for him. I really wish he had had that. So, I mean, for me to be able to earn a lot of money and to be kind of like a rich person on YouTube and be one of the top YouTubers would be so nice because I really feel I deserve every penny if I got a lot of money from YouTube. And I really feel, I'm not sure what your situation is like, but if you had a tough situation or you had someone that never gave you an opportunity when you had the credentials, you should have had a really, really good job. And you waited and waited and waited and you applied. I would apply like crazy over and over again to jobs and never get the jobs that I wanted. I had always been doing a job where the car salesman job, which I mean, if it paid well, it wouldn't be a big deal. But it's just not a high-paying car salesman job. So I'd always been waiting and waiting and waiting and really focusing my energy on my credentials and all that. And I never got that opportunity. So it would be really well deserved if I made it on YouTube. And I think you guys can relate. If you guys are ever someone that, I'm not sure what you guys' situation is, but if you had that feeling where you're like, how come I'm not big? How come I'm not big now? How come I don't have that career? How come I have a lot of education? I have good skills. I'm very friendly. I'm very fast. Like, I'm always one of the fastest people at my work. I'm always one of the fastest people. So, I mean, for me, it just didn't make sense that I wouldn't make as much money as I should. I mean, and then, you're just kind of like, well, at some point you're like, you got to do something. You got to break free from all that. You got to break the mold. You got to take a risk. You got to make sure that you are someone that really knows, that really can go get it, you know, go get something, go make something of yourself, you know. And I mean, every job is a good job, everything is a good thing. But when you have a family that's always been kind of like treating you a certain way, maybe because you didn't have the money or you didn't have this or that, and they always treated you a certain way, to me that just spells out, you know, sadness, you know. Why would you want your family to be like that? So, I mean, my poor parents, you know, they wanted everything for me. They were really supportive, you know. So, I mean, for me, it would be really nice for me to be famous. I really deserve it. And, you know, my parents' legacy and all that, and just the fact that, like, even my sister, like, she'll just say things in a negative tone a lot of times. Like, it's one of my sisters that I'm not as close to. And I'm just like, you know what? If I was a celebrity type, I think that would be nice, you know, because I get that treatment. And I'm like, you know, she barely talks to me, and then when she does, she's like that. And I'm like, well, I didn't do anything. Like, I don't know what you're upset with before. So, you know, it'd be really, really nice to sort of say, I did it. I did it myself, and I'm really proud of myself. And I had all this stuff against me, and it's really kind of nice to know that there is things like YouTube out there for people that are really, really wanting to make sure they have better things in life, you know, and have, you know, my sister's always been like that with me since I was very young. So, I mean, I'm close. She was very good to me in terms of helping me out and doing things, but I mean, but in general, she had always been very critical. She was always harsh with me with her words, and you know, it'd be really, really nice for me to be famous and say, you know what, I don't need this anymore. This is really kind of like upsetting to me. I don't need this. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Totally enjoyed the show, guys. Really want to say thank you all very much. Um, you know, I'm very supportive of my family, but there were things that I grew up with that I really I don't regret, but I just wish weren't around, you know. And I'm glad to know that there are things like YouTube that could make you famous and make you do very, very well, and then you don't have to deal with that anymore. It's kind of like gone, and you just kind of say to yourself, I left that lifestyle, I left that thing that was a hang up, and I moved on. So thank you very much for watching. Totally enjoy it. Bye guys. Click subscribe.